Hello guys, how are you? So today I'm gonna react. This way is so boring. The way I do the reactions or the way I interact with you guys so boring. I'm just like blah 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 blah. So I'm gonna turn it up a notch. I'm gonna go a bit crazy. Okay, so today we're gonna react to Jordan Peterson's The Best of Jordan Peterson's GQ interview. I'm a good fan of Jordan Peterson, so yeah, see how it goes. I know how it goes, and I know he's gonna kill it.
Sense is our society male dominated?
The fact that the vast majority of wealth is owned by men, the vast majority of capital is owned by men. Women do more unpaid
it's
labour.
stereotyping.
Tiny proportion of men, and a huge proportion of people who are seriously disaffected are men. Most people in prison are men. Most people who are on the street are men. Most victims of violent crime are men. Most people who commit suicide are men.
And the most number of people who are doing hard, dangerous jobs are men. Yeah.
Most people who die in wars are men. People who do worse in school are men.
Yeah.
It's like, where's the dominance here precisely? What you're doing
I like
is
how he's like, where's the dominance?
Substrata of hyper successful men, and using that to represent the entire structure of Western society. There's nothing about that that's vaguely appropriate. Patriarchy thing, I think you have no idea how pernicious and dangerous it is.
Well, no, I don't. I really don't. Go on.
Throughout history have fundamentally cooperated to push back against the absolute catastrophe of existence, a terrible death rate, the probability of chronic starvation, early death, disease, the difficulty of raising children, with all the death that was associated with that.
Man, life is suffering.
Look backwards in time and say, well, basically what happened was men took the upper hand and persecuted women in this tyrannical patriarchy. It's an absolutely dreadful misreading of history. It's a terrible thing to teach young women, and it's a horrible thing to inflict upon men.
I mean, I absolutely disagree with you. I think that's like saying slavery in the US was actually, most people cooperate.
How
the British had a system where one set of people owned another set of people. And until women got full legal rights, they could own property for themselves, they could work. Essentially, they were owned. They were first owned by their fathers and then by their husbands.
To the domination by men. You already said that you thought that what emancipated women primarily in the 20th century was technological revolution.
No, not primarily, but that's one of two. I think that's two things.
Not primarily, eh?
No,
I don't think the pill was a primary force in the emancipation of women.
I think
or the invention of tampons, let's say, or the provision of proper sanitary facilities, toilets, and that sort of thing. You're thinking instead it was the action of courageous feminists in the 1920s that produced a social revolution that overthrew the patriarchy. That's your theory.
Yeah,
That's a foolish theory.
Well, I'm very sorry to hear you say that, but I think, to quote you in the Cathy Newman interview, I think it's a multivariate, right? I think there are lots of different things that all contributed to women gaining full rights.
Well, then let's not be assuming that Western society was a tyrannical patriarchy.
Well, no, that's one of them, and then other things happened as well. So you have the pill, you have the dishwasher and white goods, labour-saving devices in the home. I think all of those were really important. But you also have things like campaigns for the vote.
Yes, you also have things like that, yes.
So how, when in a system that existed in England until 1918 went...
Why would you even want to look at history like that? Like, what's your goal?
Because I think the people who don't look at history are condemned to repeat it. And I think that what
are we going to do? Repeat the persecution of women? You think that's a realistic possibility?
Yeah, we're sitting here...
Yeah, but there's something like people say that history repeats itself. Maybe because people don't change in their nature. Maybe that's the reason, but there's a thing called history repeats itself, but I don't think this applies in here because we're not going to emancipate, we're going to torture and oppress women again. Some things don't go back to how they were. That's how progress happens. And I think we have progressed from back in the 1920s to 40s.
See that.
We're sitting here in America, right, where we've just had a 5th judge appointed to the Supreme Court who is now anti-abortion, is now conservative. I think that abortion rights are absolutely fundamental to women being able to function as full humans in society, and I think that is now under threat in America. I think it is extremely smug and complacent to think civilization has peaked, it's all upwards from here.
Yeah, well, good luck with that.
It's a living. There are lots of people who agree with me. There are lots of people clearly who agree with you. There are just a lot of people, I would say,
who are coming to listen to what I say because they're sick and tired of having their desire to move forward in the world and to achieve something and to take their place as adult males, let's say, who are under the weight of accusations that their ambition and forthrightness is a manifestation of something that's fundamentally tyrannical. They're not happy with that. It's not doing anyone any good, and it's also not true. It's really a terrible thing to do to young men, and it's happening all the time. That's why they're bailing out of universities like mad. There won't be a man left in the social sciences in 10 years in the universities, and it's no bloody wonder. It's an unhospitable place, and it's unhospitable precisely because of this doctrine. It said that throughout history, the fundamental relationship between men and women was one of power, essentially slavery. It's like, fine, believe it if you want. It's not going to do your relationships any good, I can tell you that. That's the problem I have with it. It doesn't matter that much. They will bail out. I don't see any way that the universities are going to redeem themselves in the next decade. So, and maybe that will be fine, but I doubt it. We'll see.
That seems extremely pessimistic when the numbers of people going to university just generally are going up.
Yeah, well, that's not going to last for very long.
Why not?
Because it's too expensive, and the universities are doing all sorts of things.
Hell yeah, damn right.
Acceptable. Mostly
the student loans in
price,
USA and
so and decreasing the quality of what they're offering.
Comparatively in Sri Lanka, like we still have a government university system, but it's there's time to go down because when everything globalizes and money comes into play, and now there are private universities and private education centers, and then people can get degrees from different institutions. So basically, yeah, the prices are going to go up. The price of education is going to go up. Even like people who go to government even people who go to government schools are like, they have to pay some stuff for some stuff.
Playing into the hands of the people who are ideological acolytes of the identity politics routines and playing postmodern stunts and pushing neo-Marxism and all these things that are characteristic of the social sciences and the humanities primarily.
I think I'm benefiting actually from a lot of things that I don't support.
I like this part because then he catches her off guard and like destroys the logic because she doesn't have anything to say from that point onwards. This interview part, like, it's not like the Kathy Newman interview or like any other, because this interviewer knows what she's talking about. She's educated, so from this point onwards, she has resigned. She didn't want to attack Peterson anymore.
Privileges in my life. I think that's absolutely true.
Like your job?
Like I have a very good job. I had a loving family.
Quit.
Well, I don't think that's going to do the world any good, is it?
That's a hell of a fine rationalization for your privileged position.
Oh well, fair enough. But if
you could trade it off with someone who's less privileged.
Yeah.
I could.
That'd be a start.
I could do that, but I don't want to, and I won't, and I don't think
Why
I should be
not?
expected to.
Why not? Is it okay for you to occupy a position of privilege in the patriarchal tyranny? And if it is it because you're female, or is it just because it's convenient?
Let me tell you my political philosophy. I guess I'm a social democrat. So what I believe is that you should, if you have a good life, you should try and pass that on. I believe in a progressive redistributive tax system, for example. It was once said by Lord Mandelson in British politics, New Labour was okay with people being filthy rich as long as they paid their taxes. Now, I'm kind of less okay with people being filthy rich. But what I do,
filthy rich.
well, I think I would leave that
You're
to...
probably in the top 1/10% of people who've ever lived on the planet.
Yeah, man.
That would constitute filthy rich by historical standards.
Okay, but I'm
So
not sure that I'm
where's
going
the
to
line exactly?
be able to help the Neanderthals at this point, really, by giving up some money. But this is my point, is that what I believe is, I believe in a structure in which people who have had a good life and had lots of advantages should pay that back. I believe in a structure...
Planet that would constitute filthy rich by historical standards.
Okay, but I'm not
So
sure that I'm
where's
going
the
to
line exactly?
be able to help the Neanderthals at this point, really, by giving up some money. But this is my point, is that what I believe is, I believe in a structure in which people who have had a good life and had lots of advantages should pay that back, pay that forwards, which I think is the message that you preach as well, right? You have responsibilities. And if you've had, like us, a lot of advantages in life.
Civilization as a tyrannical patriarchy.
But it's not purely a tyrannical
patriarchy,
He's on point.
Right.
And that's exactly the issue.
But why
because
would you deal with moral
describe it
He
as
does
a
not
tyrannical
let her
patriarchy, then you make a case
slip
that it's
away.
purely that, and that's exactly
He's
what's
on
ungrateful.
point.
Really need to be preferential hiring. I think it would probably be about making that job, breaking down the stigma to entering that job, I think teaching is a really interesting example. It was
I
seen at
worked
the
in
turn of...
daycares when I was 18, 19.
Right.
There were no men in it.
And how did that make you feel?
I loved it.
Yeah.
The kids, I used to wrestle with the kids, which of course you can't do now because everybody knows that would just be a catastrophe. And I used to draw them pictures of monsters and they'd line up for that. And I liked working with kids quite a lot. And I didn't care whether it was female dominated. I've been female dominated my professions my whole life.
Yeah.
Right, I think...
I felt marginalized as a consequence.
Okay. My big problem with the lobsters is that it's scientifically bollocks. Right? It's just, you cannot read across from lobsters and what they do to what
Of
humans
course you
do.
can. That's why serotonin works on lobsters.
But it works in two different ways. So if serotonin makes lobsters more aggressive, it makes humans
it makes them more
less
dominant.
aggressive. Right? That's
No,
what happens.
that's not right.
That,
Serotonin makes human beings more dominant but less aggressive. And the only reason it makes them more dominant is because they're less irritable and they're less defensively aggressive.
The reason why serotonin makes us complacent, like chilled out, is because we feel superior, right? Not because it tones us down.
that's
No,
what happens.
that's not right.
That,
Serotonin makes human beings more dominant but less aggressive.
But less aggressive
And the only
because you're
reason it makes them
dominant.
more dominant is because they're less irritable and they're less defensively aggressive. So it's not bollocks.
So
I
aggression
know
is
my
part of
neurochemistry.
defense.
So if you're going to play
sometimes, most of the
neurochemistry, let's
time.
go and do it. I'm not a fan of the idea that the most fundamental orientation that a person is likely to have in their life is career. I don't believe that's true for most people. I certainly don't believe it's true for most women. And I think the evidence supports that claim quite straightforwardly. So
I'm sweating so much.
However, it is the only thing that you get
So hot.
paid for under capitalism. Right?
man, live.
But that's the capitalism.
Um,
However, it is the only thing that you get paid for under capitalism. Right?
man, live.
But that's
How can
true.
you say something like that?
Paid-
It's so cliched.
Well,
it's so painful to hear that.
It may be cliche, but it nonetheless is true, right?
Look,
Women do
it's
more,
not
much more.
capitalism.
Well,
For God's sake.
it is.
No, it isn't. You have to invest into a child for 18 years before they have any economic utility.
Mhm.
It's a consequence of delayed economic utility. We don't know how to monetize it. It's not a consequence of capitalism. It's a consequence of the fact that human beings have an 18-year dependency. How do you monetize that? Even in principle.
I'm married. Modern marriage has a lot to recommend it. I do also think it is a patriarchal institution. It is literally...
Of course you think that.
Well-
because you think virtually everything that occurs in our society is a patriarchal institution. It's easy to think that because then you only have to think one thing.
You
You
could
have a
let-
one thing answer for everything.
You could
It's
let
like
me...
it's part of the patriarchal institution.
I don't think
It's
you're
like-
obeying the rule that says maybe treat people as if they have some...
It's part of the patriarchal institution.
I don't think
It's
you're
like-
obeying the rule that says maybe treat people as if they have something worth hearing. So
I'm not making a case for the patriarchal tyranny.
Yeah.
And I don't think you are either. I think that you're
Mhm.
making a case that's like a universally cliched case for the patriarchal tyranny. I don't see too
Why
much
do
of
women
you
change
reflected
their
in your
names?
articles at all.
why do women change their names on marriage traditionally?
I don't know exactly. Why do you think they do?
Because it was to symbolise the transfer of their ownership from one family to another family. That's why in The Handmaid's Tale you have Moff Warren and
Oh
Moff Glenn.
God, Margaret Atwood. Well, she was just about devoured by the feminists last year, so that was something interesting to observe.
Okay. Yeah, guys, that's about it. So there, I watched that video and I reacted to it. I think he's making some good points. He has quite an amount of common sense, unlike the people that we have to endure online. So, yeah, man, suck on it. GQ. See you again with another reaction.